Welcome to week 3, and this lecture will cover product positioning, development. We're also going to touch on the product life cycle and also how to enter a foreign market and the overall strategies for that. So here we go. First of all, let's look at this product. So this is a very, in the US market, this beer product is stuck somewhere in the middle. It's a very, so if you were to draw a product map, it would be stuck in the middle, perhaps the lower middle. It's not considered a high-end beer. It's sort of lost, if you will, in the marketplace with all the IPAs and all those things that are going on. This traditional product that's been around probably 150 years in the US has really lost its mojo, if you will. It's lost it's just stuck. It's stuck in the middle. So let's just leave it there. But to export this product, what did Pabst Blue Ribbon do? Well, this may really surprise you, but so remember what this looks like. It's a real basic beer. Here's what they did when they repositioned it for the Japanese market. They made it high end. So you have this really incredible packaging or bottling, and it's still got the Pabst Blue Ribbon product up here since 1844. Now, how were they able to do this? Well, they were able to do it because Pabst Blue Ribbon does not have the same reputation it has in the US. So they were able to reposition it in Japan. So it just shows you how radically different a product can look from one country to the other. And they positioned it to the high end of the market. And we'll be looking at product positioning in this lecture as well. But first of all, we're going to be discussing how to enter a foreign market. The most basic approach is exportation and direct exportation. So that is where you have a product, you ship it. It's not always that easy though. You have to manage the product once it's shipped. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. And licensing is another way to enter a market. You can collect license fees. Another form of that would be franchising. So there's royalties and license fees and that sort of thing that you can be paid. It's not easy to do. Your product has to be well known to be able to do that. You can't just launch a brand new product with very little brand recognition with consumers and expect to be able to find investors that want to join you in licensing or franchising. Partnerships is a way to enter a market, and partnerships sometimes there are markets around the world where you have to partner with a local entity to be able to sell or to be able to manufacture or run your company in that market. So partnerships, ideally, you want to take the best of both organizations and make a stronger overall organization. Direct foreign investment is where you enter another market full on. So you're opening a manufacturing facility, a business that you're going to really be directly investing in the foreign market. We'll be talking about that. And in entering the market, first you have to conduct research, which is something we did last week. You collect information, do a market analysis, then you have your entry strategy. And you choose the best strategy for you. And we're going to talk about the differences and the risks associated. And then that all becomes part of the business plan, and that's how you enter the market. This chart shows a couple of things. Number one, it shows the same strategies we just went over, and they're listed horizontally here. But in the vertical axis, we have profit potential, and the high profit potential is here, low profit potential is here. Then we have across the horizontal axis, we have the firm's financial commitment or risk, if you want to call it that, and marketing control. So as you move across the spectrum, you have more market control, more of a commitment, and more risk because of the commitment as you go from left to right. And then, of course, your profit potential. So with the higher profit potential, you have higher risk, more control. So it generally considered in international marketing, exportation is the least risky strategy, but you also have the least amount of control over the product. You're shipping it, you really can't control how it's being used, how it's being displayed. It's really up to whoever you're shipping it to manage that. And then we have licensing. You have a little bit more control, a little bit more profit potential. And sometimes this is a good strategy for some businesses. Joint ventures, you have higher, each one of these goes up, higher risk, higher commitment, and more marketing control, but higher profit potential. Then we have direct investment, which is the highest profit potential, but the highest risk, highest control you're going to have, highest commitment. So these are the four elements we're going to be looking at. And, what strategy should you choose? And the strategy really depends on your vision as a company. What's your vision? What's the not short-term and long-term vision? Then what's your attitude towards risk? If your attitude towards risk is low, you're probably going to want to stick with exportation. So that's it. And then how much capital? Again, if the capital you have is low, probably exportation. Then how much control you want? If you don't have much money, much to invest, and your attitude towards risk is low, hopefully your attitude towards control is in keeping with those, because you're not going to be able to execute probably what you want. So what I'm going to ask you to do is in the static version of this presentation. So I posted the slides, just the slide. I'd like you to click on this and play this video from Market Entry Strategies. That'll help reinforce some things. Exportation has to do with low control, lower risk, also potentially lower profit margin, because you're shipping the product. You've got shipping costs and you've got distribution costs. Sometimes we use what's called intermediary. There's an exercise this week in this week's module on the use of intermediaries, and that in the form of an agent. So instead of just shipping the product, you can't just ship the product to another country and expect anything to happen. Either you're shipping it to a retailer's or a number of retailers for them to merchandise your product. You won't have much control over that, but that's their business. Or you're going to use an independent agent. And every industry in the world has agents, and they represent just about every country in the world. And they're easy to find. You can get them through the export offices in your home country. Very easy to locate, to find. What they operate off commission, so they make about a 10% commission on what they sell. And if there's a real benefit for that, because that way you ship the product to them, they handle it, they will take it from place to place, they will inventory it, and they'll take it to their best customers and try to sell it for you. And they're an intermediary, so that takes away some of your profit, 10% of it, which can be a lot. So, export agents they do fill a real need in the marketplace. Licensing has to do with royalties being paid, and only like in the National Football League is a very well-known entity around the world, a brand. That brand is valuable, and if you're going to sell their merchandise, if you want to sell their merchandise, you're going to have to pay them a royalty, probably 20 to 25% of the sale price. That's why when you buy a ball cap, like a cap, and it's got its official licensed products for baseball or basketball or European soccer, whatever, or football, as you would call it, or a shirt, it's about twice the price of what it normally would be if it was not licensed. So licensing can be expensive. That goes back to the licensor. In this case, it's the National Football League. So there's advantages to licensing, and it provides additional profitability with little investment, which is attractive to marketers or to businesses. And you can sometimes get around tariffs and quotas and export barriers with licensing. It's got good return on investment. It's low cost to implement. But the disadvantages are that it's you have a lack of control, basically. I mean, if you are sending your branded product to a retailer to sell it, they could leave it in the box for 6 months for all you know. You don't have much control over it. And so this is one problem. But one special licensing agreement is where you have a contract between the franchisor and the franchisee. So if you look around, drive down the street near the university, you'll see a lot of businesses that are franchise businesses. It's a very, very common business model. And in this case, there's more control because the franchisor insists that the franchisee run the business their way. And they pay royalties and everything they sell. But it also gives the business more credibility because they're selling a brand, a name brand. So and if you want to see more, you can see this video on franchising basics. It will help explore that a little bit more. These are some of the big franchises around the world, really. And we have them from Japan, from France, from the US, of course, where franchising pretty much started. McDonald's was the first franchise business. This sort of shows you what's going on from the dollar standpoint around the world. Joint ventures is another strategy where you join with another. Sometimes one company has a great distribution channels, and another company has a really good product. So they merge and they make a joint venture sometimes. And you can see this video on joint ventures as well. And it's not for every business, but joint ventures advantages are it shares the risk, both financial and political. You share the risk. And you can learn a new environment that way. That's an advantage. And you can, it's an opportunity to create synergy and combine strengths. And that's really why you'd want to get into this kind of arrangement. And it may be the only way to enter a market, like I said before. You have to, in some countries around the world, you have to partner with a local business to be able to enter their market. But the disadvantages are requires more investment than some of the other strategies. And you have to share your rewards and the risk. So even though you're sharing the risk, you're also sharing the reward. So if you're successful, you're going, why didn't we do this ourselves? And it requires a lot of coordination, and there's potential conflict. Like any relationship, there's potential conflicts. And then the partner, your new partner can become your competitor. So how does that work? Well, if you're joining because you're using the strengths of both companies, you're merging with another organization, they're going to learn about you and how you do what you do, and you're going to learn about them. And then they could split off from you when the license or when the agreement is expired, and they may have learned enough from you to be able to be your competitor. So that's a definite risk associated. So there's some risk associated with that. Direct foreign investment is highest risk, highest reward, highest control of the different forms of market entry. So sometimes you can acquire another company, you can enter, like for example, Toyota of America has a big manufacturing plant down in the South, Alabama. In this case, you have Walt Disney, Euro Disney in France. So this is a solely owned US company, but France gets some advantages for Disney to be there. One is they hire their people, they hire their citizens, so they have jobs. They also pay a lot of tax to France to be operating there. So that's another reason why they would France would support that. The U.S. of course uses the U.S. operating system, and that's because it's Disney and that's what they do. So and you can see more about foreign direct investments here. And I mean, if you were having, let's say you're trying to expand your coffee, you have a coffee shop business, you're trying to expand it, you could just enter another market, and that'd be a direct foreign investment. It's not like you're building a $5 billion manufacturing facility. You're just opening a coffee. Every industry goes through every market. The last thing I'm going to show you is the product positioning map. And before I show it to you, I want to show you how Steve Jobs used it back in 2006, I believe it was, in the introduction of the iPhone. And you know, this is the exact chart he's going to show you. And so it's a very short video. I just wanted to watch it real quick with you.
Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone. And here it is. No. Actually, here it is, but we're going to leave it there for now. So, before we get into it, let me talk about a category of things. The most advanced phones are called smartphones, so they say. And they typically combine a phone plus some email capability, plus they say it's the internet, sort of the baby internet in the one device, and they all have these plastic little keyboards on them. And the problem is that they're not so smart and they're not so easy to use. So if you kind of make a business school 101 graph of the smart axis and the easy to use axis, regular cell phones are kind of right there. They're not so smart and they're not so easy to use. But smartphones are definitely a little smarter, but they actually are harder to use. They're really complicated. Just for the basic stuff, people have a hard time figuring out how to use them. Well, we don't want to do either one of these things. What we want to do is make a leapfrog product that is way smarter than any mobile device has ever been and super easy to use. This is what iPhone is, okay? So we're going to reinvent the phone. Now,
So that's how he used this, what he called a very simple model. But I've seen this used in boardrooms in a lot of companies, that executives use it to really illustrate where they believe their product is and where it possibly could go. Now, if you look at the how it's used in a different way, the product positioning map, or sometimes we call it the PP, the product map, the PM, the product positioning map, and there's acronyms for it. This shows like the coffee market, if you will. Not all the players, just some. In this case, I used brand awareness in high, brand awareness low, brand loyalty high, brand loyalty low. So if you had the highest brand awareness, highest loyalty, you would be up here somewhere. I don't think Starbucks they have incredible brand awareness, but loyalty, I mean, I know there's other brands that people would rather, like Pete's is real popular, with it's a little more of an underground type product, and there are not nearly as many out locations, but some people love Pete's Coffee more than Starbucks. So this shows you where you could be. If you had low brand loyalty, low brand awareness, you'd be down here. When you use this tool, I'm going to ask you to change the variables. I don't want to see brand awareness and brand loyalty. I want you to come up with your own, okay? Because you will be using that here. So what I'm going to be asking you to do is select the most logical form of entry for your team project and justify it. So, you know, of the different forms of entry we went over, I'd like you to justify it. And then the product positioning skill, I'm going to ask you to what I just showed you with the chart, and I'd like you to create a product positioning scale. I have a model you can use, of course, but for your brand and the local market for your brand that you're using. Then the product life cycle, I'm going to ask you to prove you understand it. Like I said before, select what stage the product is in on slide 19. Select 2 strategies from the stage you selected, plus 1 of your own, one that's not on the slide. So that's it. So as we go back here, we're going to be looking at the modules, and we're going to have what we just looked at here. Here's the slides. Right above this, I'm going to post this lecture here, which is going to be right above. It'll say recorded lecture, global market entry. So you can watch the lecture again if you want to, or just go through the slides that I just showed you. Like in every week, there's reading for each week. And then there's going to be the product positioning map. And what you have here is this is what I just showed you, but you can download this file. It's an Excel spreadsheet. You can download it. And then I'm going to ask you to change it as much. Don't give me what I just gave you. It's taking a while to download because we're on Zoom, but just go ahead and download this and you'll get the Excel spreadsheet. You'll get it. I'm going to go back here. And then there's an assignment. And then there's a link to the instructions here and the write-up on French cakes and exporting it. And then the homework is you're going to select the best strategy for French cakes. That's what you're going to do. So that's the activity for this week. The product positioning map, with the quadrants, I'm going to ask you to create one of those for your class project, for your team project. And then I'm going to also ask you to select again, go back to the last slide in the presentation. It'll show you what to do for your team project. Then in week 4, we'll be in class. We'll go over what you did. I'll be grading this as we go. Remember, week 3 is an asynchronous week. It's online, asynchronous, which means we're not online together. You're going to be, you can do as much or little as you want each day of this, just as long as you're done by the end of the week. It's got the due date here for that. And we'll go over the project in week 4. And in week 4, we'll be talking about culture. So that's it for now. And hope everything is well with you. And I'm going to stop recording now, and I'll see you next week in week 4, but I'll see you online this week. When I'm checking in, I'll see what you're doing. Okay, so thanks, everybody.